I never imagined my own sister would be the one to humiliate me on the happiest day of my life. Standing at the altar, dress trembling, heart racing, I heard her laughter cut through the room. She called me pathetic, desperate, a woman who settled because no one else wanted her. Everyone froze. My husband squeezed my hand, calm, unreadable, while I tried to breathe through the shame burning my chest. What my sister didn't know was that this wedding was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of hers. Before I continue, tell me your country and the time right now. She had no idea what she had just started. I had spent my entire life standing in my sister's shadow. From childhood birthdays to family dinners, she stood in the center while I learned how to shrink. She was louder, sharper, praised for everything she touched. I was the quiet one, the lucky one she liked to remind would be nothing without family support. On my wedding morning, I told myself this day would be different. I believed marriage might finally change how she saw me. I believed love could silence cruelty. I was wrong. She arrived smiling, lips tight, eyes watching. Not happiness. Calculation. She hugged me gently, whispered congratulations, and took her seat like she was waiting for a cue. When the ceremony paused, she stood. The music softened. My heart followed. Her voice was sweet, polished, practiced for an audience. She congratulated me, then laughed lightly. She reminded everyone of my failed relationships, my late timing, my miracle of finding a man willing to marry me. People laughed, unsure if they were allowed to stop. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My hands shook inside my gloves. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I felt naked in white silk. I turned to my husband, expecting anger, defense, something. What I saw frightened me more than her words. He was calm. Not tense. Not confused. Just still, watching her like he was measuring something invisible. The ceremony continued, but I heard nothing. Applause sounded distant. Her smile stayed with me, cutting deeper than the insult. Later, inside the bridal room, I finally asked him why he stayed silent. My voice cracked. I asked if he was ashamed of me. He looked at me gently and said no. He said some battles are won in public, others are won quietly. He said patience can be sharper than anger. Then he asked a question that made my stomach tighten. His voice was calm, but his eyes were alert. He asked if my sister had ever questioned me about him. His work. His past. His plans. I remembered her sudden interest. The messages. The compliments that came too late. The questions disguised as concern. My chest tightened. I shook my head slowly, realizing the truth forming beneath the shock. My sister had not come to celebrate me. She had come to test something. And I didn't know what she had been looking for. The room felt smaller as the realization settled inside me. Every smile from her, every sudden kindness, replayed with a darker meaning. I wondered how much she knew, and who had told her. I wondered what she expected to gain by tearing me apart in front of everyone. My husband said nothing more, but his silence carried weight. I sensed a storm waiting beyond the wedding walls. Something had already been set in motion. And for the first time, I understood that my marriage was not being tested by love, but by a threat I had never seen coming. I felt certain this was only the beginning, and her curiosity would soon turn dangerous for everyone involved. I grew up knowing my sister never wanted me happy. She never said it directly, but she showed it every time she spoke for me. She controlled family stories, twisted small mistakes into lifelong labels, and made sure I stayed smaller than her shadow. If I succeeded, she corrected the story. If I failed, she announced it proudly. When I announced my engagement, she smiled too wide and took control of the room. She told everyone how surprised she was that I finally found someone. She laughed while saying it, like it was kindness. In private, she asked questions that felt too sharp to be loving. She wanted to know my husband's job, his income, his background, his future plans. I told myself she was being protective. I told myself she cared. Now I knew it was calculation. After the wedding disaster, my phone would not stop vibrating. Relatives messaged asking if I was okay. Some asked carefully who my husband really was. Others stayed silent, which hurt more. Every message carried the same unspoken doubt, as if my sister's words had planted something ugly inside them. I felt exposed again, like the wedding humiliation was spreading beyond the hall. I started questioning myself. I replayed her smile. I replayed every laugh from the guests. I wondered how long she had been preparing this. I wondered how many people she had already poisoned against me. The thought made my chest tighten with fear I could not name. That night, while I sat on the edge of the bed, my sister sent a voice note. I pressed play with shaking fingers. She laughed softly, like she was amused. She said I deserved the humiliation. She said I had always been pathetic. She promised my marriage would collapse once the truth came out. Her voice was confident, almost relieved. I felt something cold settle in my chest. The next morning, I went to see her. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I asked her what she meant. She didn't deny anything. She told me she was trying to save me. She hinted she knew things about my husband that I didn't. Then she warned me to leave before I got hurt. There was no concern in her eyes. Only fear hiding behind confidence. When I told my husband everything, his calm finally cracked. He didn't shout. He didn't question me. He asked for my full trust. Then he opened his laptop slowly, deliberately. My heart pounded as the screen lit up. A folder appeared with my sister's name on it. Inside were documents, timelines, records I had never seen. My mouth went dry as I scrolled. I realized she wasn't cruel for fun. She was scared. Terrified of something my husband knew. I married my husband because he felt safe. He spoke less, listened more, and never tried to impress anyone. I never asked him to explain his silence. I thought love was enough. That night, sitting beside him, I realized how little I truly knew. He turned the laptop toward me. His voice was steady, but his eyes were alert. He told me to breathe before he explained anything. He said people often mistake quiet men for weak ones. He said my sister made the same mistake. Then he began telling me about his past. He talked about businesses he helped build and later stepped away from. About contracts signed in other people's names. About influence that didn't show on social media or family gatherings. I felt my chest tighten with every sentence. I asked him why he never told me. He said I never needed to know to love him. He said power attracts the wrong kind of attention. Then he showed me documents. Company records. Ownership transfers. Legal agreements with names I recognized from family conversations. I felt dizzy. My sister's fiancé worked under one of those companies. Her lifestyle depended on deals connected to his name. Suddenly, her behavior made sense. She wasn't humiliating me for pleasure. She was testing him. Trying to provoke a reaction. Trying to confirm her fears. My husband admitted he noticed her interest months ago. Her sudden kindness. Her questions about his work. Her insistence on attending the wedding. He stayed silent because silence denied her answers. It forced her to act recklessly. And she did. I felt anger rise inside me. Not at him. At her. For using my life as leverage. He told me she believed public humiliation would force him to reveal himself. Instead, it exposed her desperation. Then he told me something that made my hands shake. He said she had already crossed legal lines. Lines she assumed no one could see. I asked him what he planned to do. He said nothing yet. He said we needed proof she would provide herself. The next morning, an invitation arrived. A family dinner hosted by my sister. Her tone was polite. Too polite. My husband smiled when he read it. Not with warmth. With certainty. He said this was her move. And he intended to let her make it. I felt fear and anticipation collide inside me. I agreed to go, knowing the dinner was not about peace. It was about exposure. As we prepared to attend, I realized something terrifying. My sister thought she was setting a trap. She didn't know she was walking into one herself. The dinner invitation felt heavier than it should have. My sister's message was polite, almost warm. She wrote as if nothing had happened at the wedding. As if she hadn't cut me open in front of everyone I loved. When we arrived at her house, the smell of food greeted us first. Candles were lit. The table was perfectly arranged. Everything looked peaceful, rehearsed, fake. She hugged me tightly, whispering apologies that didn't reach her eyes. She greeted my husband with exaggerated respect. Her fiancé barely looked at us. I noticed his hands shaking as he poured drinks. Dinner started slowly. Small talk. Forced laughter. Every bite tasted dry in my mouth. I could feel my sister watching me, waiting for a reaction that never came. She began with subtle comments. Jokes about marriage being hard for women like me. Remarks about luck running out. Each sentence was a test. Each pause was a trap. I stayed quiet. My husband stayed calm. That made her restless. Halfway through the meal, she finally turned to him. She asked about his work. Her voice was casual, curious, almost sweet. He answered vaguely, giving her nothing. She smiled, confident, leaning back in her chair. She thought she was in control. She didn't know his phone was recording every word. As the conversation continued, she relaxed too much. She bragged about handling family matters. She laughed about shaping opinions. She admitted things she never would have in public. I watched my husband tap his phone lightly under the table. My heart pounded. I knew every word was being captured. Then she slipped. She mentioned a business deal she shouldn't have known about. A contract only a few people had access to. The room went silent. My husband looked at her calmly and asked her to repeat herself. Her smile froze. Her eyes widened just slightly. She tried to laugh it off. Her voice cracked. She changed the subject too quickly. I saw fear replace confidence. Her hands tightened around her glass. Her fiancé stared at the table. My husband said nothing more. He didn't need to. The damage was already done. As we stood to leave, she pulled me aside. Her grip was tight. She whispered that I didn't understand what I was involved in. She warned me again to walk away. I looked at her and felt nothing but clarity. She wasn't protecting me. She was protecting herself. When we stepped outside, the night air felt sharp. My husband squeezed my hand once. He told me quietly that she had given us exactly what we needed. I realized then that the power in the room had shifted. She knew it too. And whatever she was hiding, it was now dangerously exposed. After that dinner, everything moved fast. My sister started calling nonstop. Her name flashed on my phone like a warning I couldn't silence. When I didn't answer, the messages changed tone. Anger turned into pleading. Pleading turned into panic. My husband told me this was expected. He said people unravel when they feel control slipping away. He asked me not to reply. He said silence would force her to expose herself. Every part of me wanted to confront her, but I listened. He was right. Within days, emails started appearing. Old family contacts reached out, confused and nervous. They asked questions my sister should never have answered. Some forwarded messages she had sent them. Each one revealed another lie she could no longer keep straight. My husband showed me how it all connected. Financial shortcuts hidden behind family favors. False claims made in my name. Promises she had no authority to give. I felt sick reading through the files. Not because of money. Because she had used my image as leverage. She painted me as unstable. emotional, unreliable. She told people I couldn't manage responsibility, so she had to step in. I remembered every time she spoke over me. Every time she helped by controlling the story. She had been building this narrative for years. We gathered evidence carefully. Screenshots of messages. Contracts signed without consent. Recorded calls filled with half-truths. Each file felt heavier than the last. I cried more than once, ashamed of how long I had trusted her. Then she changed tactics. She accused my husband publicly. She told relatives he was manipulating me. She claimed I was being controlled. Hearing my life rewritten through her voice made my hands shake. I felt violated all over again. One night, my phone buzzed. A long message appeared. Her words spilled out without control. She admitted everything. She begged me to stop whatever I was planning. She said she never meant for it to go this far. She promised she would fix it if I stayed quiet. I stared at the screen, heart racing. This was the confession my husband warned would come. Fear had stripped her of caution. For the first time, she was telling the truth. I realized this was no longer about revenge. It was about choosing myself. About refusing to be used again. My husband asked me one question. Was I ready to let the truth be seen? I knew the answer would change everything. Protecting her had already destroyed me once. I took a breath and nodded, knowing the next step would pull us into a fight she could no longer escape. The courthouse smelled like old paper and cold air. Every step inside echoed louder than it should have. I felt exposed walking beside my sister, even though we did not look at each other. She wore calm like armor. I wore truth like weight. Inside the courtroom, everything felt stripped of emotion. No family roles. No history. Just facts waiting to be measured. I reminded myself to breathe. I reminded myself I was not the weak girl she spoke over. When proceedings began, my sister's confidence returned. She cried at the right moments. She spoke softly. She painted herself as protective, misunderstood. I felt anger rise, sharp and familiar. Then the evidence began. The first recording played. Her voice filled the room. Clear. Mocking. Cruel. Every insult from the wedding replayed without laughter. The judge listened without reaction. My sister shifted in her seat. More recordings followed. Her bragging. Her manipulation. Her admissions. The courtroom grew heavy. I watched faces change around me. Relatives avoided my eyes. Her lawyer stopped interrupting. She tried to speak once. The judge stopped her. That moment felt unreal. For the first time in my life, she was not allowed to control the story. I felt my hands tremble as documents appeared on screen. Messages sent in my name. Deals made without permission. False claims signed confidently. Each page confirmed what my heart already knew. This was never concern. It was control. My husband sat beside me, silent, steady. He did not look at her. He did not need to. His calm grounded me when my chest felt tight. When it was my turn to speak, my voice shook at first. I told the truth simply. No drama. No exaggeration. I spoke about trust. About betrayal. About losing my voice for years. My sister stared at me then. Her eyes were wet, but empty. Outside the courtroom, during a break, she cornered me. She asked if I was happy now. She said I destroyed her life. She said family should forgive. I looked at her and felt something release inside me. I told her quietly that she destroyed her own life. I told her I was done being her excuse. When the session ended, the judge delayed the verdict. My heart sank. Waiting felt unbearable. Unfinished. As we walked out, reporters gathered. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. My husband placed himself between me and the noise. He whispered that truth does not rush. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every word, every glance. I wondered if evidence was enough. I wondered if justice ever favored the quiet. The verdict was coming. And I knew it would decide more than legality. It would decide whether my silence was finally over, or if I would have to fight again for my own reality. The courtroom felt smaller the morning of the verdict. Air pressed against my chest. Every step toward the bench sounded final. I sat with my hands folded, knuckles white. My sister sat across from me, stiff, eyes fixed forward. She did not look confident. She looked empty. When the judge entered, the room rose. My heart followed. I told myself not to hope. Hope had hurt me before. The ruling was read slowly. Each sentence landed like weight. Findings. Violations. Responsibility. When my sister's actions were named clearly, something inside me steadied. No emotions. Just facts. Public, undeniable facts. Contracts were declared invalid. Accounts frozen. Partnerships terminated. I heard quiet gasps behind me. I felt nothing but relief. My sister's lawyer whispered urgently. She stared ahead, lips trembling. She did not cry. She knew tears no longer worked. When the final line was spoken, it was over. The judgment exposed her conduct openly. The room exhaled. She still did not look at me. I wondered if she could. Seeing me meant seeing herself. Outside the courtroom, cameras waited. Questions were shouted. My husband moved in front of me without a word. His hand found mine. Steady. Protective. My sister walked past us, surrounded by silence. No supporters. No explanations. Her fiancé was not there. That absence said more than any statement. Family members approached later. Some apologized quietly. Some avoided me. I accepted neither blame nor praise. I was tired. That night, alone, I finally cried. Not for money. Not for victory. For the sister I never had. Justice did not feel loud. It felt clean. It felt final. Days passed. The noise faded. But something remained unsettled inside me. She had not spoken to me. Not once. I realized closure does not always come from courts. Sometimes it comes from truth spoken between two people. I slept lightly in those days. Dreams came in fragments. Her voice. The wedding hall. The judge's gavel. I tried to return to routine. Work. Home. Silence. But my body stayed alert. My husband watched me carefully. He asked if I was okay. I said yes because it was easier. He said healing does not rush. I believed him. News articles appeared. Names were printed. Facts stayed firm. Comments were cruel. I did not read them twice. Family dinners changed. Seats were empty. Conversations careful. I felt both free and lonely. At night, questions returned. Did I want forgiveness? Did I want distance? Did I want an ending I could touch? I realized something important. Justice ended the fight. It did not end the bond. I needed one last moment. Not to argue. Not to accuse. To stand as myself. When the message arrived, my hands were steady. I knew the meeting would reopen wounds. I also knew avoiding it would keep them open. I looked at my husband. He nodded once. Whatever choice I made, he would stand with me. I replied with a single word. Yes. The screen stayed lit, waiting, as if the future itself had leaned closer, listening for what I would say next. And the silence between us finally felt unbearable again. We met in a small cafe far from family and cameras. No lawyers. No witnesses. Just two sisters sitting across from each other like strangers. She arrived first. Her shoulders were tense. Her confidence was gone. When she saw me, she stood, unsure whether to hug me. I stayed seated. She sat back down slowly. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence felt heavier than shouting. She broke it first. She said my name quietly, like she was testing how it sounded now. I didn't respond. I waited. She told me she never meant to ruin my wedding. Then she stopped herself and corrected it. She said she did mean it, but she didn't think it would go that far. Her honesty came out clumsy, unfinished. She admitted she was afraid. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of becoming invisible. Afraid that I had married into a life she could no longer touch. I listened without interrupting. I noticed her hands shaking around her cup. I noticed how small she looked without her audience. She said she had always believed I needed her. That without her guidance, I would fail. She said watching me stand up for myself terrified her more than losing money. I felt sadness, not pity. I realized she had been fighting ghosts inside herself, not me. When it was my turn, my voice was steady. I told her humiliating me did not make her powerful. It exposed her fear. I told her love does not require control. She looked at me then. Really looked. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. I told her I wasn't there to punish her. The court already did that. I was there to end something inside myself. I said I forgave her, but forgiveness did not mean access. It did not mean trust. It did not mean returning to the past. She asked if we could ever be close again. I answered honestly. Not the way we were. That truth seemed to hurt more than the verdict. She nodded slowly, like she expected it. When we stood to leave, she hesitated. She said she never thought I would be the strong one. She said she was wrong. I walked out without looking back. The air felt lighter. My chest felt open. Outside, my husband waited. He didn't ask questions. He read my face. He took my hand. As we walked away, I understood something clearly. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her fear. I didn't need her voice shaping my life. That was the last time she spoke my name with power over me. From that moment on, it belonged only to me. The weeks after that meeting were quiet in a way I had never known before. Not empty. Not lonely. Just calm. For the first time in my life, there was no voice correcting me in my head. No fear of saying the wrong thing. No need to explain myself. Justice had already been done in the courtroom. But healing happened in ordinary moments. Waking up without anxiety. Laughing without checking who was watching. Making decisions without asking permission. I realized I had spent years confusing endurance with love. I thought staying silent made me loyal. I thought shrinking kept peace. It didn't. It erased me. My marriage changed too. Not because of power or protection. But because trust deepened. My husband never used his strength to control me. He used it to give me space to grow. We talked more. We laughed more. We planned a future that felt earned, not borrowed. Family gatherings became smaller. Some bonds faded. Others strengthened. I learned that loss is sometimes the price of truth. I stopped explaining my choices. I stopped defending my boundaries. I stopped feeling guilty for choosing myself. When I thought about my sister, it no longer burned. It softened. Not into reconciliation. But into acceptance. She was part of my story. She was not the ending. I learned that being strong does not mean becoming hard. It means becoming clear. Clear about what you allow. Clear about what you walk away from. The woman who stood humiliated at her own wedding feels distant now. I honor her. She survived what I needed to confront. Today, I stand taller. Not louder. Not sharper. Just whole. If there is one truth I carry forward, it is this. No one has the right to define your worth. Not family. Not fear. Not history. Silence is not weakness when it is chosen. Patience is not surrender when it leads to justice. I didn't lose a sister to find peace. I found myself.